Hello everybody.
Hello.
And welcome to the workshop. In today's video, we are saving automotive YouTube and possibly driving enthusiasts around the world.
Yep.
You see, for a long time now, all YouTube project cars have been the same cars.
Yeah. They've all been cars from things like the Fast and the Furious or a TV series or...
Yeah, things like Initial D or Vanguard Midnight or Forza Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
I know that's how I got introduced to a lot of cars. And that's all right. But the problem is, the reason they're used, we should say,
Yep.
is because everyone knows what they are. It doesn't matter whether you are from Japan or you're from Ohio
Yep.
or you're from the middle of England or Germany
Yep.
or Poland or wherever. Everybody knows around the world, or South Africa, everyone knows what a Skyline is.
Yep.
Right?
Or a Supra.
Yeah, and everybody's seen squirrelians of drift videos on YouTube. Everybody's seen a Supra with 1,000 horsepower. Everybody's seen big wide body kits at Tokyo Auto Salon and big 18-inch wheels that are 10-inch wide with super low profile tyres. And unfortunately...
Yeah, the SEMA stars.
Yes. Unfortunately, all the Supras now have 1,000 horsepower or have been exploded or crashed into walls.
Yep.
And so the ones that are left...
Tend to be the poverty models, the one with the smaller engine and the automatic gearbox.
Or there are multiple hundreds of thousands.
Yep.
More than you can afford, pal. Well, more than I can afford anyway. Right, so what we've come up with is a plan.
Yep.
We're going to save all of automotive YouTube because automotive YouTubers can no longer build the stuff that they've been building for so long because it's worth too much money.
Yeah, so they can't, and the car's, a standard car now is worth more being a standard car because all the other ones have been modified.
And every time I go on the internet, there are young car enthusiasts out there who've grown up with automotive YouTube, and I really feel for them because they're always saying there are no cheap enthusiast cars left. But that's wrong.
Yeah.
Because we have come up with a solution. So, well, we're going to talk about what the YouTube car is, and then we're going to talk about our alternative.
Yep.
Right.
So we're going to start off with a Mark IV Supra.
220 brake horsepower if you want a 6-cylinder normal aspirated automatic one. 326 brake horsepower.
Yep.
If you want the full twin turbo 6-speed manual, about 5.3 seconds to 60 for your, what, $150 to $300,000?
Yep.
Depending on condition. So what we're replacing
which is a lot of money. And then if you want 1,000 horsepower, you're going to have to roughly spend that much again.
They're not actually that good either.
No.
They're really good GT cars. They're not a sports car.
No, they've never been a sports car. They are designed to be a motorway muncher. They are designed to sit on the motorway in comfort and just gobble up miles.
Yeah, they're an incredible like Autobahn missile.
Yeah.
I really like the interior. They've got really comfy seats. They're actually quite luxurious to live in, which I can imagine somewhere like Florida or Texas or somewhere, or Germany. It'd be lovely because you can spend hours and hours and hours on the motorway in comfort. I think that was the idea originally.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, on a tight, twisty road, they do have a tendency to understeer like mad.
Yep. Not very good. Very, well, they're not a sports car.
No, they're very much a squishy GT car, and you can feel the weight, can't you? So, what we're replacing it with?
Well, we're going to have to replace it with a British Bulldog, the Jaguar XJS.
Right, the Jaguar XJS was an incredibly controversial car when it came out. Not like Jaguar to be controversial at all. But basically, it was the replacement for the legendary Jaguar E-Type. And it's a funny looking thing. In fact, it has flying buttresses, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it was originally going to be mid-engine, and then at the last minute they went, nah, let's not do that. Let's put the engine in the front and turn it into a Grand Tourer instead. And what a Grand Tourer.
Yeah, it is the Chesterfield suite of interiors.
Yeah, they, in my opinion, they look best in Continental spec as well, which is like bright colours and vivid and very, was it Pretenders that had the Aston Martin DBX with the yellow? Pretenders?
Protectors. Tony Curtis and Roger Moore.
Yes,
series
in the 1970s, and Roger Moore had like an Aston Martin that was bright yellow, like banana yellow.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the XJS is best either in black,
Yep.
where it's like super murdery and like, you know, aggressive looking, or like super bright coloured and super vivid. It does best at both, but in like British racing green with cream interior,
not so much.
It's a bit pap. It looks a bit like your granddad's car, right? But they are legit, and they have legit racing pedigree.
Yeah, they raced in British touring cars, they raced in European touring cars. They've raced all over the world and been incredibly successful.
Much like the Supra, they were available with automatic gearboxes and manual gearboxes. The base engine was a straight six, but we're not bothered about that. The straight six was kind of your good sports car engine. If you want to take it
nice
on,
engine.
Designed by W or Bentley.
Yeah.
If you want to take it on a tight, twisty road, that's your straight six. But we want to defeat Supras here, don't we?
Yep.
For a fraction of the money.
So we need all the power.
We need all the cylinders. We need a V12. And an XJS just happens to probably be the cheapest V12 GT car money can buy.
Yep.
But if there's a cheaper one, I don't want it. I'll put it that way, right? So there's the XJS, and then they made the XJRS.
Yep.
And then there's a few aftermarket ones. The XJS was 5.3 litre. And the XJRS, which was the later ones, which are quite cool. I like an XJRS. They're a bit of a hidden gem. Everyone seems to have forgotten about them.
Yeah.
And they are 6 litre.
Yep. And then there's the Lister Le Mans car.
Well, Lister, if you've never heard of Lister, Lister were racing legends when it came to Jaguar, weren't they?
Yeah.
Tom Walkinshaw dipped their foot in it for a while, but Lister were like...
The people, when they had the knobbly Lister going back in the late 50s.
Yeah, D-types and all that, and they made a supercar out of one, and they brought it out to 7 litre. You could get a few different variations, because obviously it was a car made for the customer.
Yep.
And I think they only made 100.
Yep. But they are available, and they're a third of the price of the equivalent Mark IV Supra.
Well, this is the thing. Where Supras were bought by kind of, and no offence meant here, but boy racers.
Yep.
And a lot of them have been wrapped around lampposts and rusted, and a lot of them, because for a while they were cheap, which is why they became such good enthusiast cars. The Lister Le Mans was kind of bought by an enthusiast connoisseur. You had to walk past the Porsches, walk past the Ferraris, walk past all these different brands and go, you know what I want? This weird British cottage car company thing with a 7 litre V12. And so they were looked after.
Yeah. So generally you can pick them up super low mileage for around £80,000.
Yes, I think the fuel economy might have something to do with the low mileage. But a twin turbo Supra with 1,000 horsepower isn't exactly a Prius. There was a 496 brake horsepower, and then there's like the top all nuts one that has the engine from the Lister Storm, and that one has 600 brake horsepower, because the Lister Storm was a car Lister also made that was like their own thing and carbon fibre and mad, and that was their supercar. XJS, awesome thing.
And the fact is, because it's a V12 and it's 7 litre, it will last for ages.
Yes.
Whereas if you have 1,000 horsepower from a Supra, every 20,000 miles, if you want to keep that 1,000 horsepower, you're going to need to rebuild it. Yeah,
it's, with 1,000 horsepower, well, you can get a lot more than 1,000 horsepower from a Supra. But at the end of the day, it's a very stressed engine at that point, and they aren't very nice to live with. You've got multiple fuel pumps, you're boiling fuel in your fuel tank and traffic and stuff like that. Whereas the Lister, being normal aspirated, like that 7 litre Lister Jaguar V12 literally raced and won at Le Mans.
Yep.
It is a proven thing, and they are utterly wonderful engines, and it's old-fashioned technology at this point, but that means that it's going to work. And what's more, everything is available, 100% parts availability from Jaguar Heritage. So if any like door handles, nuts, bolts, screws, catches, like lights, everything. If you crack a windscreen, you can get one. Which definitely is not the case when it comes to Supras, especially interior components are now very expensive and difficult to get hold of. So what's our next one, Dad?
So our next one is the Subaru WRX.
Yeah, Subaru WRX STI, and let's make it Halo. So let's go for the 22B. which is the wide-body Colin McRae homologation coupe.
Yep. Super expensive.
Right? Very, very limited, very, very niche, only available in right-hand drive, I believe.
Yep.
Lovely thing, absolutely fantastic cars. Like you're talking, I don't know, 0-60, 4.7 seconds. I can't remember, 280 brake horsepower?
280 horse, yeah.
But obviously, all Subaru WRXs aren't 280 brake horsepower. Like
No.
that, you know, things will vary. But we're going for halo cars here, and well, they're not exactly famous for the reliability. They have oiling issues. They blow head gaskets. They're a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a kind of car you drag out. You pull out your garage at weekend, you wipe it, you know, you give it a good polish, and you drive it gently, and you put it back.
What we're looking for here is a coupe
Yep.
with rally heritage
Yep.
and questionable reliability.
That's got to be a Mark 1 RX7.
Yes, because you might not know this, but the Mark 1 RX7 was a Group B rally car.
Yeah.
In fact, you were around as a rally mechanic in the Group B era
Yep.
and witnessed them firsthand.
Yep.
And didn't Tom Walkinshaw once ask you to work for him?
Yeah, many, many years ago.
Why didn't you accept?
Because I would be out of the country 300 days of the year.
So why didn't you accept? If you don't know, Dad was a rally mechanic back in the day, and you were, well, rally driver, rally car builder,
Yep.
all sorts. And Dad has like stories for this. In fact, didn't you once fit tyres for the Datsun rally team?
Yeah, because the generator broke down. And the
When was this? Where was this?
RAC rally. And the generator broke down, so they couldn't run the compressor. So me and another guy fit tyres by hand for the Nissan Works team.
Did you do it with fire?
No, we didn't use fire.
No, that's why.
We just used tail levers.
That's why when we fit these, we managed to stretch our tyres with no fire and no problems at all. Because, well, you're quite good at it. So yeah, Mark 1 RX7, legit Group B rally credentials.
Yep.
It is the lightest of the RX7s.
Yep.
Massively successful rally car. Not well,
No,
prodigious. I wouldn't say successful.
and now that technology's moved on, they wouldn't have the reliability problems that they did at the time.
Unless you want 1 million horsepower.
Unless you want 1 million
But you
horsepower.
don't have to, because the Mark 1 is the lightest.
Yeah.
And you've got McPherson strut front suspension, you've got they're a solid axle rear,
Yeah.
which is similar to like an 86 or a Mustang or a Ford Escort.
Yep.
But they're a lot cheaper than a Ford Escort Mark 1 or Mark 2.
Yep.
And a lot cheaper than an 86 and pretty much everything else, because people are scared of rotaries. But let's be honest, for that price, who cares? In fact, for that price, I'd be tempted to get a Renesis out of an RX-8.
Yeah.
Because that Renesis from the RX-8 is 180 brake horsepower.
Yep.
And it just like fits and it's perfect because it's a 13B and they had 13Bs, the last ones had 13Bs in as well. But they're that light that with 160 brake horsepower, I think they did like 0 to 60 in, I don't know.
Just over 6 seconds, I think.
Was it just over 6 seconds? So yeah, the Group B cars had 300 brake horsepower. So if you're doing 0 to 60 in 3 seconds with 160 brake horsepower, with 300 brake horsepower,
Yeah, it's going to be even quicker.
you'd be going like a bat out of hell. And there is massive history and successful racing with the Mark 1 RX7 from British touring cars.
Yep.
Tom Walkinshaw did superbly in rally, in Japanese touring cars, like around the world. They're super, super successful.
Yep.
But we've got an alternative. Because if you're not into your rotaries and you fancy pistons instead,
Yep. You could have a Ford Sierra.
right, Ford Sierra, if you don't know, when they banned Group B, everybody was scrambling, weren't they?
Yep.
To come up with something. Because if you didn't have a four-wheel drive 2-litre production car ready, then you didn't have anything to rally. So people just grabbed whatever was available.
So Ford got in touch with a company called Cosworth.
Well, not to begin with. To begin with, they've raced the 2-litre.
Yeah.
Right? And here's the thing. There is the famous Cosworth Sierra. Now, if you're American, you'll know it as the Mercure That sounds like something James Pumphrey. Mercure. There's the Mercure and there's the Sierra. They're exactly the same car. Now, the Sierra Cosworth is amazing and wonderful and all the rest, and even the Sapphire Cosworth is superb as well. Unfortunately, they're expensive now, so we're not going to bother. What we're going for is the Sierra as a platform, because you can put any engine you want in it. In the UK, they built four-wheel drive ones eventually.
They had a V6.
Yeah, in fact, they were very common police cars. The police loved them. And there's the XL4i, which had a 2-litre fuel-injected something or other.
That was a two-wheel drive V6 again.
Oh, two-wheel drive Cologne V6, which is like the Essex V6 that came in the Ford Capri. Very successful 6-cylinder racing engine. In America, I believe, they came with something called the Lander or something, but it's basically a Ford Pinto, what we know in Europe as a Ford Pinto engine, which is the engine from a Ford Escort RS2000.
Yeah, or a Ford Cortina. The 2-litre single overhead cam.
Yes, but that Ford Pinto engine, the Ford Lima, that sounds right in my brain. They also use them, I believe, in the turbo version of the Mustang 2. The Lima engine, but it's basically a what we know in Europe is a Ford Pinto engine, super successful rally engine. Now, what you might not know about that 2-litre Pinto, if you are American, is that it's one of the few engines ever available in both single overhead cam and double overhead cam, 8-valve and 16-valve, and they are all absolutely interchangeable. In fact, there's a company called Burton Power.
Yeah, a UK company.
That make everything you need, and Mountune also. If you're in the States, Mountune now have an American division, I believe. Mountune make WRX engines and race engines and WRC engines and all sorts. But they stock everything that you need for a Pinto, and they can get anything that you want. Now, they often used Ford Pinto engines in Caterhams and stuff as well, didn't they? They were the really popular kit car engine. And so Ford still produce
all the
Pinto blocks and stuff. And they're also really commonly used by students in universities who are learning about engineering, because you can put them on a floor bench and you can actually show students the difference between each, like, what's the difference between a single overhead cam and a double overhead cam, or double overhead cam 8-valve, double overhead cam 16-valve, and stuff like that. And so you can literally swap and choose and build whatever you want, or you can put a modern engine in it and do whatever you want.
Yeah, in fact, there's enough room in the engine bay to put an LS in there if you want. Yeah,
you could put LS, you could put an EcoBoost V6, you could put an EcoBoost 4-cylinder, do whatever you want. But they're really good. It's a really good platform. It's a really strong little car.
Front engine, rear wheel drive, so all the driftability.
And it has semi-trailing arm rear suspension, much like the original BMW M3, which means big skids, mega stable sideways. They love to oversteer. So if you enjoy sliding around. And by the way, if anybody's about to complain in the comments that we've chosen two cars that are rear-wheel drive and not all-wheel drive, that's because I'm not an understeer enthusiast. And, right, what's next car?
Right, it's got to be the car that's gone from, well, when I was younger, it was a car that you could kind of afford. Right, if you had a fairly decent job, you weren't mega rich, but you could afford a 911.
Yeah, an impact bumper 911.
Yeah,
or like a 964, all the ones that Singer buy to turn into Singers.
Yeah, I could afford to buy one. I never did, but
no, I remember you wanting one. I remember you looking at them.
No, we did look at one point. Now, even the base models with the smallest engines.
A Carrera T with the steel heads and all that, and they make no power. I mean, you're talking 160 brake horsepower.
It's not much. Basically it's a 6-cylinder Volkswagen Beetle at that point.
Yeah, they're not good, excellent chassis, powertrain leaves a lot to be desired. The really good ones, obviously 240 brake horsepower and stuff like that from stuff that that was a performance model on carburetors and all that.
Yeah.
And there's the turbos, but turbos are insane money.
And they only came with the turbos only came with a 4-speed gearbox. So then you've got to uprate your gearbox to a 5-speed gearbox, and there's the G60 gearbox.
Yeah, G50.
G50, G60.
But the
gearbox are a fortune.
Yeah,
everybody wants one.
And so you're paying extra for a proper gearbox, you're paying extra for proper power, and if you want to take your 160 brake horsepower 911 and make power with it, air-cooled engines. I drive an air-cooled car every single day, so I'm I know these things. You know these things.
Yeah,
you have an air-cooled daily.
Car doesn't want to make power.
They hate making power, which is why Porsche eventually went water-cooled, right? Air-cooled power is the most expensive brake horsepower per brake horsepower out there.
Because unless you put a turbo on it, there's no real way to make power.
It's just hideously expensive. Cams are like Porsche tax is real, isn't it? Cams are expensive, pistons are expensive, internals are expensive. At 100,000 miles, they burn out their valve seats, and it's like a $10,000 valve job. Yeah, and that's and there's loads of. If you ever see a cheaper 911, I bet it's got just under 100,000 miles.
And it's desperate for your valves to be done.
And one with over 100,000 miles that's had its valves done is worth more than one with just under 100,000 miles that hasn't. That's how big of a job it is. So what we're replacing it with?
Well, I'd say another British car. I would say another British car, another little bit of British exotica. Yes, it is the Lotus Esprit.
Right, Lotus Esprits are mad because you've got Giorgetto Giugiaro design work.
Yep.
It looks like a wedge of cheese. They have a WRC winning engine.
Yep.
It's a 4-cylinder, but it's a WRC winning engine. That's a cracking little engine, that engine.
Yeah.
There is a turbo variety. You have a choice of either Renault or later Citroën gearboxes.
Yep.
And they're brilliant handling cars. I mean, there's a reason people go, it steers like a Lotus.
Yeah. That's because it does.
It's a Lotus. And eventually they got a V8. And the thing is that once for a day, a V8 Lotus Esprit was an expensive thing.
Yep.
It was an expensive proposition. But 911s have gone so crazy that, the 4-cylinder Esprits have about 148 brake horsepower from memory.
The really early ones, yeah.
Yeah, what do V8s have?
350.
350?
Yep.
So you've got way more power than you have in a 911 then for a lot less money. Don't get the most expensive one. That expensive GTR one is a nightmare because you have to take the engine out to change the cam belts.
Yeah.
We're not going to bother with that. But they are really good. And wasn't the V8 Esprit designed by the same guy that designed the McLaren F1?
Yes.
So yeah, originally Giorgetto Giugiaro or McLaren F1-esque design and lovely interior, and they're a really nice place to be.
Yeah.
The early ones are very 70s.
Yeah, a little bit fragile, but with a bit of TLC, you can have one that's super reliable, beautiful handling car, a pleasure to drive.
And unlike a Lotus Europa, they were never kit cars.
Nope.
So they weren't like ridden hard and put away wet. You tend to find that Esprits have been loved and looked after. They tend to like 1 or 2 owner cars, unlike a lot of 911s that have been through many owners. But actually, I wouldn't buy an Esprit. I would go for a Maserati Merak.
Yeah, good choice.
The Merak is one of the most underrated cars, if not the most underrated car in the world.
Yep.
Right? It has the gear. Well, if you've never seen a Merak, it's mid-engined, V6, 2+2 seating, just like a 911.
Yep.
So if you've got young children, you can shove them in the back as long as they don't have very long legs. And you've got a 2-litre or a 3-litre V6.
Yep. The same engines put in the Citroën SM.
Yes. And they're flipping brilliant. They've got a timing chain on them, so they don't tend to blow up, and they're not mega bad for reliability. Like, they know...
No, I think the engine's pretty complicated, but I think if it's a really good sorted car, or a car that's been looked after...
The more they're driven, the better they are.
They are a good engine.
Yeah. 2 or 3 litre V6, you've got a 5-speed gearbox, no paying extra for a 5-speed like you do with 911. And it's the same gearbox that was in the 205 T16 Group B rally car.
Yeah.
Like it's this, not kind of the same gearbox, it's literally the same H-pattern box that was put in Harry Vatanen's WRC winning Group B rally car, as well as the Citroen BX 4TC rally car has the same gearbox.
Same car, yeah.
That gearbox has been around, and the reason is it's flipping reliable. And what's more, everything is available for them.
Yeah.
Every mechanical part is available, and they use Citroen Oleo pneumatic LHM oil for like you have on a DS suspension or on a CX for the brakes, but everything's available.
Everything's available,
and they are massively reliable. You've just got to drive them enough.
Yeah.
Which, let's face it, there's no problem in that.
No chip there, is there?
No, and I even like the fact that they've got like little flying buttresses on the back, but they unbolt, so you can work on the car easier. Like they've actually thought about it, and I think that's the Citroen side of the Maserati thing.
Yeah, because Citroen did own when that car was produced. Citroen did own the company.
Yeah, so Maserati did all the flair and all the Italian like joie de vivre, and then Citroen did the reliability.
Yep.
And so you've got a massively reliable mid-engine V6 Italian supercar that you can daily. And they're not slow either. I mean, you're talking there's 2 versions. In Italy, they had a thing about engine displacements.
Yeah.
And so they made a 2-litre version for the Italian market. I think that's 217 brake horsepower. And there's another one that is it 286? Something like that. I'll put it on screen. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they are really, really good. I'm going on about them, but they are superb. And they were available in America. Unfortunately, America got the really horrible impact bumpers. So you will have to sort that out. Because, no, they're like dive planes. Talking about, Esprit and it being a submarine.
Yeah.
The American spec Meraks look like they've got dive planes, but they're beautiful ride and handling, gorgeous seats, like absolute magnificent seats. Of this list, probably my favourite car on it. So the next one
it's got to be
is the Drifter's Choice.
The Drifter's Choice, the S-Chassis Nissans.
Yes, so we're talking 200 SXs, 240 SXs, S13s, S15s, S14s, all cars that you've all seen wrapped round a pole or smashed into a wall in videos. They are famous for terrible interior quality and smelling like bong smoke. There's a certain kind of owner that owns an S-chassis. And unfortunately, because they're such good drift cars, many people learning to drift have murdered them.
It's not only that, they've gone expensive.
Yeah, that's it. If the ones that are left that are really tidy and really good quality.
Yeah, now super expensive. So what do we have that's equivalently drifty? Right.
So it's very difficult because in America they got the K engine in the S-chassis, whereas we got the SR20 DET, which is the 2-litre all aluminium turbo, and also the S-chassis got high CAS as well, which was Nissan's 4-wheel steering system that everyone gets rid of, right? So what is an S-chassis varies country to country, so it's quite difficult to kind of come up with an equivalent. And they've also got multi-link rear suspension and McPherson strut front suspension, so they're giving like loads of lock but loads of rear grip, which makes them good for drifting. However, I think there's a better car for drifting.
So do I. I would say...
Hang on, count to 3. 1, 2, 3, Caterham. If you go to drift school in the UK, you're driving a Caterham. I grew up on the side of a mountain. We used to live in a very rural place in North England, in a very wealthy area. I was just born there. We weren't living there because we were wealthy. But I used to go out as a young boy onto the mountains early in the morning and watch the Caterhams and Westerfields slide around the corners, chasing superbikes. They are fantastic. fantastic cars. And for the price of an S-Chassis, you can get a really good Caterham Super 7.
Yep. That's the one with a little 1600 or 1700 Kent engine, little 4-cylinder engine.
The Kent engine is the one before the Pinto that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But it's a better engine, really,
Yeah.
because it's a lot lighter.
And it's not just that, it's a little workhorse. And you can see, there's a massive parts supply for it. We talked before about Burton, Burton Engineering, Mount Tune. They can literally buy everything for that engine. You can even buy a 16-valve head for it now.
Yep, and they are fitted with the gearbox from a Ford Sierra.
Yeah.
So basically, everything that you want, everything's still available. They also have the Webers hanging out of the side of the bonnet.
They sound glorious.
Yeah, the carburetors literally hang out the side of the car, which to me is one of the most badass things on any car ever. A lot of them have aluminium bodywork that can be polished beautifully.
And the exhaust comes out just in front of the rear wheel. So you've got
side pipe.
So you've got side pipes, you've got the engine noise in one ear, and then the roar from the carburetors right in front of you.
Yeah, and they might, 1.7, like, what's that going to do? How is that going to keep up with an S-Chassis? 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds, that's how it's going to keep up with an S-Chassis.
And that's with the little engine.
Yeah, they are massively tunable. But there's also a bunch of other companies. There's companies that made basically the same car because it's a Lotus copy. So there's Westfields, there's low cost, which if you want to get into if you want to build your own car,
that's a good place. So they will supply all the parts for you. They'll supply the chassis, the engines, the gearboxes, the suspension, everything. And you can literally unbox it in your garage and just put it together.
Yeah, and they've also got really good PCD for different wheels as well. So if you want to put some wicked wheels on it, you can do. There's loads of cool wheels available, which is a huge deal. People don't talk about wheel availability enough, but there's nothing worse than being stuck with some obscure PCD that you can't get wheels for.
Yeah. Which is why we went to all the trouble on this to get 4x100.
Yeah. And speaking of RX7s and stuff, Ari and Nemia even have built a rotary Caterham. Yeah. They are massively popular in Japan. In fact, there's a terrible anime called X-Driver, that's about a few. Right, you don't watch the anime, whereas I wouldn't say a connoisseur. I don't think you can be a connoisseur of anime, but I enjoy the anime. It's a dystopian future full of self-driving cars. Don't know what that's like at all. And X-Driver are an elite squad and there's, funny enough, there's a 22B Impreza, there's a Lancia Stratos, and there's a Caterham, and they chase down escaped autonomous cars. That's the entire plot of the series. It's terrible, but Caterham in anime. Utterly fantastic cars.
One of the best things about a Caterham, right, is you can buy it, you can use it for how many years you want to keep it, if you want to keep it indefinitely, right? But if you want to buy it and then you say, I fancy a change.
I need back seats.
Yeah, or you need back seats, you can then put that car back up for sale and you'll get your money back.
Yeah, they're worth exactly the same all the time. So you can buy it, you can look after it, you can own it for a year, and it will be worth, if you do some work on it and tidy it up and make it nicer, it might actually be worth more than money you sold it for, which is not something you can say a lot about many tuner cars, really.
And the thing is, you don't need to modify it. Straight out the box, it is as good as we've said.
Limited slip diff, coilovers, double wishbone front suspension. Did he get on rear suspension?
On some of them, did he on rear suspension? The ones that just a solid axle.
Yeah. This absolutely superb, and they weigh nothing. They're like a shoe, and so if you've got a small garage as well, and it's a second car, then you can actually fit it in kind of a 1.5 car garage.
And it's not just for drifting, like for track days and everything. You will be in a Caterham, you will be a giant killer. Yeah, because you'll have cars with tons and tons of horsepower.
Oh yeah, you can take down a 400 brake horsepower M3 in a Caterham. Yeah, and I've seen it happen. If you go to any track day in the UK, it's all Caterhams. Yeah, there'll be a row of Caterhams, and there'll be some little Formula Forward things and stuff, and then there'll be the other stuff.
Yeah, there'll be Imprezas and Evos and BMWs.
Yeah.
And the Caterhams will go lap after lap after lap after lap. Right, and a lot of the other cars have to come back in because they're overheating, and the tyres have gone off.
It's Honda reliability.
Yeah,
it really is. Like you're not talking turbo problems. You're not talking overheating. You're not talking problems with fuel pumps. These are a solved thing, and there's a massive community behind them. But if you must have a roof and seats, and you want to use it every single day, you want something that is an equivalent. Well, there's always 350Zs. There's 370Zs. There's a bunch of Infinities, which we don't really get here. Because in Europe, they put the Nissan V6 in like people carriers, like in the S-Pass and in the Aventine, but they also put them in a Renault Laguna. So we don't get the Infiniti G35, and we don't get, I think it's the G60. That's the 270Z with a manual, but it's a coupe.
Yeah. And of course, there's the relatively new 1 Series BMWs.
Yes. It's gone from my bread. E82, 125 IS, which is rapidly appearing at many drift events and many even Formula D and stuff like that. They are really good little drift cars.
Yeah, the short wheelbase, handle really well, straight six engine.
Well, the M1 version of that car has gone up in value every single month since they stopped selling them.
Yeah, any M car will go up in value.
No, not necessarily. M5s, they're really expensive, and then especially the V10 ones, drop off. Like the later M3s hold okay, right? Yeah. But those M1s have gone up in value, and the reason is it's the only thing that BMW hasn't replaced. Yeah. They've done like an M2 and stuff like that, but it's a lot bigger car, it's a lot more stately, it's a lot more sensible. Those little 1 Series is such a wicked short wheelbase chassis. But you don't need the M, because BMWs are amazing. They're like Lego. They do a very Subaru thing.
Yeah, all the parts are interchangeable between the different models of car. So if you've got an M car, you can put M car bits on a base model car.
An M3 engine bolts straight into an E82. The brakes bolt straight on. Yeah. Everything, all the brackets is all the same. Yeah, even things like water pumps. Yeah. Like you find yourself needing a bigger water pump, your water pumps fit, radiators fit, like everything just fits. So there is a massive aftermarket for them, but you don't necessarily need it. No. And they're also really good looking. The only problem with them is the interiors are a bit pap, which, if you're used to S-Chassis Nissans, you're used to that. Yeah. Because they're not exactly amazing. Get one from somewhere that's not super sunny, and then the interior hasn't been eaten by the sun. Although, unlike an S-Chassis, the dashes won't crack because they're wrapped in leather. It's an upgrade. Right, the next one is pretty much the halcyon JDM car, I'm going to say. People are going to think I'm going to say Skyline with that, but I'm not. Because a Skyline's a Skyline, and if you want a Skyline, then you're buying a Skyline. Because other than a 5 Series BMW or an old AMG, there's nothing really out there that does Skyline stuff for less than Skyline money. No. And let's face it, R35 GTRs are coming down in value. They've made them since like Jesus was in short pants, and so like the R35 is like 20-odd-year-old car now. Yeah. They've been making them forever. I mean, you can get like a Lamborghini Huracan and whatever, but who cares, right? A86. Yep. Initial D. It is the anime car. It is the magic car of the tollgate. It is
the delivery car.
It is Toyota's copy of a Mark II Ford Escort. Yeah. That's not blasphemy, by the way. It is a literal copy of a Mark II Ford Escort. And very good for it, don't get me wrong. They're not perfect, though.
No. They don't have much power to start with.
They've got no power. They've got 112 brake horsepower. They are very cheap inside. Parts are very hard to get. And actually, they don't have very good steering feel, which for a car famous for drifting is kind of shocking. I think it's a caster. It might be a caster issue. Might just need more caster. Yeah. And so suspension and stuff can probably sort that out. But out of the box, 8.9 seconds to 60. They are pretty light, but they're not super light. No. They're not Escort-like, which is probably why they never beat the Escorts in rallying.
Yeah.
In fact, you knew somebody, didn't you? Back in the day, you used to rally one.
Used to rally one, yeah, and it wasn't particularly popular either.
No, not in the UK. They sold loads in Ireland.
Sold in all the time because they were a good Escort equivalent.
Yeah.
When the Escort had stopped production, so they were old cars, but these were new cars.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing. So yeah, they did take off well in tarmac rallying.
Right, and what I'm going to say is going to get me crucified in the comments. But my pick for an E86 alternative is the MGB, which is pretty much the Mazda MX-5 before the Mazda MX-5 was a thing.
Yeah,
before Miata was always the answer.
Because the
answer was MGB.
It came in hard top, it came in soft top.
In fact, the hardtop version of the MGB was designed by Pininfarina.
Yeah.
It came in a 4-cylinder version and a V8, an all-aluminium Buick V8 at that. The Rover Buick V8 that was in the Range Rover for a long time.
In my youth, I put a new clutch tube on.
Yeah, that was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it had a fairly overdrive gearbox, so it meant it had like an extra gear,
yeah,
an overdrive gear.
4-speed plus
Overdrive, right? And the overdrive unit fit on the gearbox, right? It took me 4 days, right? 4 full working days to fit a new clutch tube on.
Packaging is a bit difficult.
Yeah, everything. Radiator's got to come out, engine's got to go forward, gearbox has got to come down. It's a flipping nightmare.
We're supposed to be singing this thing, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right. So available in the soft top is 920 kilos. The hard top is 1,048 kilos. The hard top has a massive boot.
Yeah.
That it's a 2-seater. It's supposed to be a 2+2, but
2+2. No, I've actually been in the back of it.
Have you?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
Yeah, when you were a kid. So yeah, I wouldn't put adults.
And
you've got to
sit sideways. You can't. There's no room for you. But you can fit.
Yeah, you can fit 1.2 children, as long as those 1.2 children aren't very old. They're not very fast, but neither is an 86. You're talking about 11 seconds, 0 to 60. However, they are fitted from the factory with an SU carburetor, which is about the size of a sherry glass, and produces absolutely no power. But the V8 ones, how much power? I can't remember. It's not a lot.
It's not a lot.
But the V8 ones produce more power than 86. You're talking about 137 brake horsepower or thereabouts.
And the difference between the Toyota and the MG, the spares ability, even though the MG is a much, much older car, you can buy everything from it, from a brand new body shell to
Moss,
a window winder.
Moss that sell Miata parts started off doing MGB parts.
Yep.
You can get, even if you wrapped it round a pole, a light pole, you can buy a brand new heritage body shell that comes like in plastic, not from China off AliExpress, like with an 86. I'm not kidding. There's a company in China that started making 86 chassis, but you can buy a brand new, made in the UK, beautiful heritage body shell. There are suspension upgrades, there are coilover kits, there's Willwood big brake kits, there's supercharger kits, there's turbo kits.
Yep. Whatever you can think of, modern 5-speed gearbox kits.
6-speed MX-5 gearbox conversions, Moss make.
Yep.
Everything that you could possibly ever want. There is even a wide body kit from the factory, the Sebring.
The Sebring body kit, yeah.
Yes. And there's also a kind of GT version called the MGC, which kind of sucks. And if you are looking for a donor to put an engine in, a big engine, then I would look at an MGC perhaps.
Yes.
Because they've got a bonnet bulge.
Yep. And not only that, you've got loads of spares. You've got a massive history with them, like a full racing history. So they
raced at Le Mans.
They raced at Le Mans. They did obviously Sebring, where they get the body kit from.
They were really good rally cars.
Yep.
They've done pretty much autocross. Anything that you want to do with a car has been done in an MGB. Yep. And the absolute amazing thing about the MGB and why I picked it above any other British sports car is because, one, It's massively available all over the world.
Yeah.
In fact, in America, they are super cheap. 2, it has a really nice interior. Those leather seats are beautifully comfy and actually very, very, very nice.
Yep.
And 3, it has the same wheel PCD as the A86. In fact, and also the gearbox shifting motion was modelled by Mazda for the MX-5 Miata. That's how good the gearbox is on an MGB. But going back to the wheel PCD, the bolt pattern for the wheels is identical to the 86, which means all of your cool retro Fuchsia, SSR Mark 1s, Watanabes, Techno Phantoms, Hiashi Streets, all fit on an MGB.
Yep.
In fact, I know a guy called Guthrie who has an MGB that he autocrosses. He got in touch with me because his car came on spokes originally, like spoke centre lock wheels. And he's going autocrossing, wanted to find some wheels, and I told him, have a look at Toyota wheels, and he actually found some from a high-ace van. And they're nice.
Yeah.
Like, they work. But any wheel that fits on 86 or a 510 Datsun also fits on an MGB.
Yep. And the other thing, the MGs, they come in, there's kind of 2 sorts. The ones that they call the chrome bumper cars and the rubber bumper cars. And the rubber bumper cars are the same car,
yes,
apart from the shape of the bumpers.
Yes.
Right. The chrome bumper cars are older and they demand a higher price, whereas the rubber bumper cars are much cheaper.
And you can always put a metal front end. It's only a bolt-on valance. I mean, it's super easy to swap over, especially if you're not bothered about the chrome bumpers. Yeah, they're absolutely superb. And like I said, they are selling for that cheap in America. That I have a friend who bought one simply because he felt bad because it was so cheap. And he was worried that if it didn't sell, it would get scrapped. That's how cheap these cars are. Whereas 86s once for day were cheap and were massively available.
In fact, we just looked in our local area. And there's an A86 for sale, and it's €47,000.
Yes.
And it's a high mileage car, and it's not that nice.
Yeah, no, it's very, very, very worn and beaten. All the plastic on the interior is cracked. It's not got original seats. It's a mess. And the thing is with the 86 is that the diffs are quite fragile. The gearbox is quite fragile. And so you want a really well taken care of car, and that one is very much not a well taken care of car.
For the price of a beaten to bits A86, you can buy an MG, modify the hell out of it for the same and have a really nice driver's car for the same price as a standard beaten to bits car.
I've had a look this morning, right, online, and there's an MGB in our local area.
Yeah.
I could go and pick it up today for €4,500, right?
Yep.
MGB GT, so it's the hard top. It's rust free, but it's a little bit tatty here and there, a little bit worn, paint's a bit faded. Yep. Probably needs a few things, right?
So that's 10% of the price of the Toyota.
Yes. So you could actually have a GT for every day.
Yep.
You could have a soft top for autocross and like cruising on back roads and doing toge, and you could have another hard top for drifting and not feel bad about it at all. And still have money to modify all 3 of them for the entry price of like a reasonably okay 86. I'm pretty sold on MGBs.
Yeah.
They're the Miata before the Miata. The only difference with the Miata is that an MX-5 is all right, but the hardtops are super expensive and no longer reproduced. And they've only got a tiny boot. Yep. So if you are tall, you don't fit in one. Whereas I fit in an MGB. Yeah. Do you fit in an MGB all right? Yeah. I mean, if I fit in, you usually do. But also, the GT has a massive boot. So if you actually needed a practical car that can do shopping and things, you could move house with an MGB GT, no problem. Like they're that good. And yeah, if you are looking for something, if you are looking for an enthusiast car, then let us know what you're looking at down in the comments. If you have any suggestions for saving automotive YouTube, you know, does Jimmy Oaks' next drift build need to be an MGB? Because you know what, I think it does.
Yeah.
Seriously, like an EcoBoost swapped MGB GT,
or if you wanted to go down the
hell yes.
if you wanted to go down the YouTube route, you have to get a K20.
Yeah, well, he's currently building a K20 new 86, and the reason why the new 86 BRZ isn't on that list is because the reliability of that engine is questionable at best, and they are extremely expensive to rebuild. That's why they're not included. And an honourable mention also goes to the Volvo 700 series.
Yes.
The Volvo 700 series is a much slept on car, and air conditioning and things like that were available. So if you need a daily drive, if you want something fun, they are a bit funny looking. They do look a bit. They're
a bit boxy.
They're a bit nerdy as well, but nerdy's cool now, you know. And so yeah, no one else is going to have one, and I dig them.
Yeah,
and so if you can find one,
point. Yeah, find a nice one.
The Bertone 780 Coupe.
Yeah.
Don't buy one of them. They're all right, but they're a Volvo that was bodied in Italy. And so they rust like mad. And just, no, don't put yourself through that. And the V6 variant has the engine from the DeLorean. The less said about that, the better. It's all right when it's in an Alpine, it's fine.
Yeah.
When it's in a Volvo, don't bother. It's too heavy for that platform. But yeah, anyway, so let us know what you think down in the comments below. What would you include? What have we missed out? Should we do another one of these? Have you enjoyed this video? Please let us know.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
I'd like to say a huge thank you to our Patreon members, including Andy Wood, Doug Schott, and Alex Bottomley.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Like supporting us and all that. If you're interested in our Patreon, that is linked down in the description. Thank you all for watching. Please be awesome to each other, and we'll see you all
in the next video.
Bye bye.